Hello, and welcome to Life Lessons for a Time Such as Now. I'm Tracy, and I'm with my guest hosts, Cece, Crystal, and Nay. Hey, ladies.
Hey
Hi,
guys, how
How
y'all
are you
doing?
today?
I'm
We're
good. How are
good.
you?
Good. I'm so happy to hear that. Today, we have two guests here visiting us, speaking about Black culture. Have we lost our way? We have two gentlemen for you today. We have Bruce. Hi,
Nice.
Bruce.
Hi,
Hello, how you
Bruce.
guys doing?
We're
We're
good.
good. We're good.
Good.
And we have Pedro. Hi, Pedro.
Hi,
Hello.
Pedro.
Thank you for having me.
Hi
Absolutely.
guys.
Hey,
So, Black culture, have we lost our way? You may be asking yourself, well, what is that? What do you mean, have we lost our way? Basically, have we lost who we are? Have we lost the essence of who we are as Black people? Because we get so caught up in society and what society feels that is acceptable, even down to erasing our history or attempt to erase our history. Sometimes we get caught up in that. What is Black beauty? Right? What is all of these things? Have we lost our way? What do you guys think?
I think it's worth digging into what when we say culture, Black culture. What is that? And then what was our way, or what is our way, and what direction? What does that look like? So for me, even for me, so I can understand a little bit better, because when you say culture, I also think of arts and entertainment.
Mhm. Mhm. I believe so. When you say Black culture, it's all of those things,
Hmm.
right? So even in arts, sometimes people may believe that it was whitewashed,
Hmm.
right? Because if it's too quote unquote Black, if it's too Afrocentric, it can actually be considered banned, right? And
Right.
so in today's culture, is it a good thing to even embrace who you are? Right?
Mm.
Whether it is arts, whether it is society, what is accepted, and not even just with society, but amongst ourselves.
That's true.
well,
Good point.
um, yeah, I think the question is probably yes and no because in terms of culture, um, it's like the young, you have the young, what they call YNs. I think
Ryan,
that's what
Oh,
my
I
yeah,
schooled
yeah
them
yeah.
on that.
yeah my daughter was putting me onto that, and I think sometimes like especially in a culture now where how do you define Black, right? Because like America is considered about 14% Black.
Mm.
But is it really? Because who considers themselves Black? There's a lot of Black folks that look like all of us, and they don't identify as Black.
Mhm.
So that in and of itself sort of creates the challenge,
Right.
And then we have young people because of social media and I think technology. They've sort of lost their way. We weren't being taught Black history anyway. Most of us, I know, I'm 60 years old, and so I learned when I went to school. We learned about Martin Luther King. We learned about the Emancipation Proclamation, and we learned about um, um, what's his name? Carver Washington. I'm sorry, George Washington Carver. Look at that. That's what we learned. And so the learning that I had to learn was at home. And I don't know if there's a lot of teaching of that because especially with MAGA and what's going on in the world,
Correct.
it seems like a lot of Black folks we're embracing. We sort of we're getting the same kind of things that white people get, like the ignorance, the intolerance. We sort of some of us are embracing that, and I think
Mm.
some of us just admire whiteness, and so we're just
Mm.
sort of shunning Blackness. So yeah, I think in a lot of ways we lost our way. The young people
Mm.
definitely.
So when you,
Well, I can
sorry,
oh,
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
okay. I'll just give my perspective being in the beauty industry. So a common problem that, I get into these little debates with my clients. I feel like in the 70s, women were proud to wear like afros, natural hair. That's when the whole "I'm Black and I'm proud" movement was going on, and they embraced their Blackness. A lot of my clients in the corporate world, they would come in and they would say, "Hey, you need to take the deep wave, which is more of a kinkier weave out of my hair because I'm going back to work and I need some straight bundles. I need some straight hair put in because I can't go to work with this kinky hair." And now I understand when it comes to like different fantasy colors, red and blue, you can't go to work like that. But these women are not comfortable going to work in a natural state, and they want to put straighter hair weave in, you know.
And
And I just
blonde
felt
hair
that
too.
to be,
They,
huh?
they blonde their hair now too. A
Yeah,
lot
they
of them
might
Absolutely.
do.
want lighter hair, but
Hmm.
definitely when it comes to texture, they don't want anything that resembles our natural hair. And I just find that to be a bit much. And they're actually nervous. They're like, I cannot go to work with my hair like this. And we get
Wow.
into these debates, and I don't understand because I go to work with my hair how I want it to be. But yeah, so I feel like we're losing that as far as with women, with culture, and as far as losing the Black culture.
It's funny you say that about the hair because I'm in the hotel industry, so I've been in there a long time. But when I first started in, I was working at the Waldorf and very culturally white per se, right? A lot of black workers, but culturally white. And I
European.
remember wearing those Bantu knots because I've always embraced my hair and different cultures and doing this and that to my hair. I don't have no problem with that, and just being who I am. But I got called down to the office, and they was
Wow.
like, "You got to take that hair out."
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah, they told me, and this is probably in the '80s, going into the say '90s. And it was like, you got to take it out. And I was so offended. I said, listen, I just put it in and I can't take it out for another week. I'm always been a little rebel in that sense, but they had to wait until I took it out. But yeah, I did take it out earlier because it was an issue. But you know what?
wow.
It's funny though, because now, like I look at my girls and they embrace their hair. They embrace everything about themselves. I want to say I had a part in to do with it because I did, but they learn to love themselves and they wear their hair the way they want to wear it, and they wear it very natural and it looks really good.
I believe it was you, right? Because I'm gonna jump on what Nay was talking about. She took the words right out of my mouth because in the 60s, the 70s, maybe even the 50s, and I'm gonna stretch it and say the 80s as well. It was, blackness. Everyone was embracing who they were, right? The blackness, say it loud, I'm black and I'm
Hmm.
proud, just like what she talked about. The afros, even other ethnic groups was trying to wear afros, right? Because it was so like embraced by us, right? Who we were, who we are. And then when you fast forward now, I totally agree. No one wants to wear the kinky look for the most part. And just like you, Cece, I was a rebel. I'm still a rebel a little bit. And
Me
I
too.
remember I started wearing afros when no one else was wearing afros. And people were looking at me like, oh, an afro. And they were, making a little frown, but I was embracing that part of me. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember wearing, straight weaves and all of that. And there's nothing wrong with that because if that's what you want to do, that's
Right.
fine. For me, I felt like what happened? What made me believe that the hair coming out of my scalp wasn't good hair? What made me believe that the color of my skin is a bad thing, right? What made me believe these things? And so when you start thinking about it and then you start looking around, of course, like social media, you see people bleaching their skin,
Hmm.
changing their hair,
Yeah.
getting plastic surgery to narrow their nose. And I'm like, what happened to us? And so that's really the deep part of the question that I'm asking. What happened to us?
Integration. That's
Integration.
what happened. Yeah, integrating. Because you know,
Assimilation.
assimilation. Yeah, because
Hmm.
even yeah, when you look at when you look at the young people, like there's a lot more interracial dating. And I think that when you look at it, it's like my family. We have a couple. I have a nephew and my son actually, who are interracial relationships, and sometimes when you look at it, it's like when you get in a interracial relationship, do you bring your culture or do they embrace your culture? Like, because sometimes you'll see a white person who is kind of wanting to be black and they're with a black person. But now I think more so you see black, especially in, I don't know, something about the NFL and sports, but all these players, and they're
Mhm.
just with the whitest girls, like the
Mhm.
whitest of white, like poly. Yeah. And so yeah, I think they're swinging to that culture in a sense. I don't think that the white part, and then it was sad is that you know now we lost, you lost another one. Like, and that whatever happens with that person, their generational wealth, all that stuff goes to you know, to the other person. And I mean, love is love. So I'm not trying to judge. You love who you love, but there's something to be said for that. And also people of color, that term, because it's like I really just like that term, and I feel like people embrace it. It's like we're so desperate, black folks, for allies that we make all these people. I'm you can see my name. I'm Puerto Rican, and my parents were from Puerto Rico. I'm a black man. I'm 100% black. I'm not half or nothing. I am all black. And see, that's the thing. We embrace Latinos and make them like they're people of color when a lot of them are like me, but they're white. There ain't nothing black about them. Look at Cruz. Look at those folks. What's her name? A bunch of them. You can see actresses and even if you look at acting, you look at entertainment industry. Show me a Latino that looks like me. This is a famous Latino that looks black. So sometimes I think I think we got to get back, and also African American, because there's a lot of people that come here. I mean, if you look at, we're at the bottom of every metric scale. African Americans, not black people,
Right.
African Americans, because there's other black folks that come here and they succeed. So it's a really deep, it's a very deep thing, man. And there's so many things where we need to unlearn, because we learned a lot, man. We learned really about how to hate each other, how to fight for crumbs, battle each other, while white people have the whole pie. We're fighting for the crumbs, and we're fighting each other, and we're hating on each other, and it's so magnified now because of social media and technology. So yeah, I think we lost ourselves. I think we absolutely did. I think my generation and we're scared of the young cats. Young cats don't respect their elders the way I was raised.
They
Oh,
don't. They sure don't.
You know, so
at
yeah, we lost
all.
our way. We lost our way. Do you know that the baseball, they had a World Series like two years ago, and they would say this was the first World Series since Jackie Robinson entered the league that there were no black players. But there was plenty of black players, but they were all named Jose and Chico or whatever,
Mm.
but they were black. It's like we fell for it, man. So yeah, man. I mean, white people, they don't never debate what they're all white, whether they're from Sweden, Denmark, or wherever they're from. But us, we got a little night here with Indian too. Not even knowing that the Native Americans owned slaves before with the Confederates. I don't know, man. There's a lot. We need to get it together. Even if you look at politics right now, like why are we Democrats? What's going on with that? Why do we embrace that? Why don't we, like right now, Joy Reid lost her job, Roland Martin, all these people. Why can't they all get together and build our own thing, have our own party? You know, and the way we embraced our blackness in the 70s and 60s, even though a lot of us were processing our hair too.
Let me just jump in. Like I don't think it's any problem with having allies. I know when I grew up,
they don't want to be allies though, bro. That's my point. But I hear you. It's important to have them. But
yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
They
But
assimilate.
we have to be careful not to think we are the same and put them in our category. But I think people of color does create an allyship between people of color, non-white, which gives us some strength, gives us some more voices, and I don't think it's a problem with that. When I grew up, I grew up around a lot of Spanish, Puerto Rican, Dominican, and they were going through some of the exact same things we were going through. So an ally just understands whether they've been through it or have not been through it, but the fact that they've been through poverty, they've been through injustice from the police, so they can understand and they can empathize with the same things or dealing with the exact same things that we're dealing with. So I think it creates a stronger force. So I don't think it's I don't look down on calling people of color.
No, but you know what though? I feel a little differently, because I feel like we're so needy for them to embrace us, but they don't embrace us. I think one of the first things that people of color do when they come to America is assimilate to the racism, like to the white supremacy. The first thing they do is they race us against us.
They separate themselves from us.
Yeah, and like even in New York City, like in the late '80s, mid '90s, I was in the music industry chasing something, and me and my friend, I lived in Queens. We used to be in Manhattan, and when we tried to get a cab, we couldn't get one. And those were the white men that wasn't picking us up. So they already assimilated to all of that and picked up the things that are white America. I think that's the first thing people do when they come here is the first thing they pick up is the racism against black folks. And I think, we're always there to support them, the immigrants, all of that stuff. Where are they with us? They're
Well,
not,
you know
where are they with
what?
us?
So I definitely, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but I
that's
definitely
fine.
agree with you on that. But I believe that it starts with propaganda. Let's just, because wherever
Bingo,
they're
100%.
living, if they're living
Media.
in a different country, they don't know anything about us. But
Hmm.
when they look at television or
Hmm.
any type of media, they're seeing a negative picture of black people. So
Yep.
when they
Absolutely.
come to this country, they're looking at us like, oh my goodness, they're violent. Oh my goodness, they're barbarians,
Yep.
because it's
They're
already in their
lazy.
head before they even make it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
100%.
Not to mention, again, if you look at our history, it's been stripped away from education.
Hmm.
So
Right.
if you take all of that
Yep.
out about who we are, then no one really knows us, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, we don't even know ourselves. So our
No,
children,
the 100% thing. I'm sorry to cut you off. Think about it. Like the America that I was taught, I never lived there.
Mm.
Freedom and liberty. You got to put freedom next to slavery. It's together. You got to be, and there's no, America is like, it's just so dishonest. And a lot of us, we fell for that. And like you said, even a lot of us, like I know what we learned about Africa. We learned that they were barefoot running in the jungles. We learned that the Europeans came here because they were persecuted. That's a lie. Europe was a cesspool of disease. They came here and then they brought the disease with them. So
right?
we was taught a whole different kind of America, and I think like a lot of us we have to unlearn that stuff. Like you said, because even like the people bleaching their skin, things of that, because even we were part of that, right? The hierarchy, the light skin versus dark skin, which still exists
Still
to this
exists.
day. Yeah, man. So I
Even
think
in the
yeah,
Spanish culture.
yeah, I think 100%. So I think
Yep.
we did. I mean, when everything's said and done, and we're just talking African American, not just black folks. We
Yeah.
lost our culture. Look at me. You know how many people I meet that say, what are you? Like, well, because I was in the hotel industry like Crystal. I was at this one hotel and this young lady, she was Latino, and we can talk about Dominicans too, by the way. I'm gonna talk about them. But she said to me, Pedro, where are you from? What are you? And I said, well, my parents, I was born here. My parents are from Puerto Rico, both of them. And she said, I knew you wasn't black. I knew you wasn't black. And it's like really, like we don't even understand the diaspora. Like the fact that we all probably maybe all six of us came from the same village in Africa, but when they came here, it dropped us off in different places.
Right.
We don't even know stuff like that. And as far as Dominicans go, because you
Well, I
talked about
don't.
Dominican.
Right. I'm sorry, because I don't really want to really
No.
get into other races, right?
Okay. Well, no,
Because I
no,
don't.
I'm
I
talking about
really
black
don't.
though. I was just trying to talk about black.
Right.
So that's why I was
Absolutely.
going.
So that's it. Right. Because I was going to say,
Yeah.
I want to stay on us as a whole, right? Because you can't help anyone else unless you help yourself,
Right.
100%.
So
right?
how do we help ourselves?
Correct. How do we help ourselves in embracing that again? Because if you think about it, I heard that they were singing at the Super Bowl, lift every voice and sing.
I did hear that. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Kids don't even know what that is.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
No.
foreign to them.
Yeah.
If
But
you
yeah,
look
that's
at and I know you was talking about, some of the, like, of course, everyone knows about Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, George Washington Carver, all of that. But what about the other
Right.
yeah.
individuals
Uh-huh.
who had invented many things within this country,
Yeah.
even around the world? They don't know anything about us. So
Yeah.
the picture is, it's better to be something else than to
Yeah.
be black. That's
Right.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
that's
Absolutely.
But that's why it's important for us, even though sometimes it's a little difficult, it's important for us to teach our kids other things about our culture. That's good. And the people that invented light and stuff like that, because we didn't know. I mean,
Right.
the good thing is a lot of these movies that's coming out now is bringing light to all our powerful people that was just left behind. But now we're seeing who they are and knowing their names. Say their name.
Hmm. I think we should teach them that we're the survivors of the survivors of the survivors. We never talk about those people, how when they was kidnapped and brought in that ship, how many only a percentage survived that trip. They never talk about that. Like, that's something to be proud of, man, that we come from that. Like we persevered so much that we're the reason America is a democracy. because America was never a democracy until the 60s when everyone had the right to vote and all the other freedoms that they talk about. When I want to go back, when I was talking about Dominicans, what my point was that, you know, if you look at like police brutality, especially even here in New York, or if you look at Miami or LA, when you see the police beating on black people, those cops are usually Latino now.
Mm.
And it's still the victims are still black. That's why it's still racism. And so you have a lot of, like, when they talk about, the police department has this percentage of people of color, or the fire department, and a lot of them Dominican. As far as I'm concerned, they're white, because they don't even, they share an island with Haiti. They don't even consider themselves,
Well, I'll let me
or a
jump
lot.
in,
But
Yeah,
Pedro.
yes, ma'am.
I'll agree with you.
Maybe I'm painting a broad
My
brush, so
daughter's
apologies.
father looks exactly like you, literally. You just got him by about 10 years, but you guys look exactly the same. Complexion, whole head, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that to say this. He's full Dominican. Full Dominican. Um, and going out with him, we'll go to a spot, Sofrito, Salsa Confrego, whatever the case may be, right? And there's other Dominicans at the front. They're lighter, whiter skinned Dominicans or whatever. And we'll walk to the door and they'll tell us, no, we're full. It's to capacity. We don't have anything. And my daughter father would say, oh,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, bring your car around. Valet, come. You understand? It's a different type of
Yes.
treatment. They'll let you
So.
in. We'll go to different countries and like Mexico or
Mhm.
DR or wherever the case may be, Spanish speaking countries, and we're being treated, like regulars, whatever. And as soon as he starts
So he
speaking, it's like,
speaks.
oh,
Yeah.
Dominicano. When they and they're black too.
Mm-hmm.
They're black too. Maybe not as dark as him, but they're definitely brown. They're
Yeah.
the shades of everybody on this chat right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the treatment is different. So I do agree that, most of them, there is prejudice within that community. They don't identify with the black race. They don't think that they're black, So I will agree that there is prejudice, amongst our own, especially with Hispanics. So I will agree with that.
No, see, I think that's where we lost our way, because you got to include them too, right? And so we have a large percentage of people like that. And even if you go to Puerto Rico, I was there last year, and I was curious about the census there, and I saw that they 75% Caucasian. That's not true, but they identify like that. So
Okay.
you know what I mean. So yeah, I think we just lost that. We just was so, like you said, Tracy, propaganda. When you keep beating someone in the head with it. My wife, when we got our car and we had Sirius Radio, she listened to Justin Bieber. I don't like him, but about a week later, I'm humming it. Then a month later, I know the words,
The
because you know what I
power,
mean.
the
Yeah, the
power of the
power
media.
of it.
how
Yep.
Right.
There's a wonderful book called 1619. My daughter bought it for me a couple of years ago, and it's like, you don't open it and read it from cover to cover, even though I did, but it really connects dots. It really connects some of the things, these questions we have about race. Black women have to save us, man. That's one of the challenges. Maybe we had the wrong black woman. I don't know if I think Kamala, if she was really real to me, she would come right back now and say, I'm here now. Biden messed me up, but I'm gonna come through. I think we need a black
well
woman to
she
save
she
us.
might she
We
might
need a
so
black woman to save us. Now, I don't know. She's like underground, like she's a footnote. That's why I can't
but
stand
anyway,
Democrats.
hello Pedro.
Look,
I'm
Calm
listen,
down,
sorry.
wait.
man.
I'm sorry.
Calm
Hi,
down.
guys.
Wait,
I'm
so go ahead, Trey.
God,
Cece.
Crystal.
Oh no, I
Hey,
was gonna say,
I
but
know I've been quiet through this whole thing, and I've been listening and everything, but I just want to say, it's really up to us to educate and to keep our history alive with our children. And yes, it has been lost. Uh, and we don't do it as much. The cookouts and the get-togethers and talking about our family trees and history and all that stuff. So it really starts with us, and then we have to remember how we were taught, and we have to teach them to pass it on and keep it going. We can't do anything about social media. We can't do
Mhm.
anything about the world, but we can do it within our own families and within ourselves.
Mhm.
So that's what I have to say about all that.
and on
Wow.
that note, I think we all should give our little takeaway of how we feel, and because we're gonna do a closing now.
Okay.
So
Wait,
Trey.
hold on. Before you close,
Oh yes, go
I
ahead.
just want to ask Crystal and the other parents, during the chat, because my children are still small and I am raising them, what is one piece of advice that you would give me to give them with raising them with Black culture?
Good question.
So I can
I
tell
would,
you, I'm sorry. What I
well,
can tell you is that what I've done, I used to make my sons especially read history books about Black men, about Black history. I used to make them do that and then do a book report. That was part of their punishment. Kids don't want to do that, right? Right.
That's
The
good.
goal was for them to identify with who they are. That was the goal. I wanted my sons to be proud of being a Black man.
Okay. I like that.
I agree. 100% books. When I was a little boy, very confused, because I went to schools and I grew up in Queens. I went to white schools. They called us nigga. We even had middle school. We had to have police escorts. My parents, but the schools were the good schools, so my parents didn't care. My neighborhood, one of my friends were African American. My parents spoke Spanish, so my friends used to make fun. And but my father, he was a cop, and he knew, man. We had a ebony encyclopedia, which was only 3 volumes, but they were so graphic, and they was right in my face, man. And I knew right there. And then I remember in 1972 in the Olympics, there was a Cuban boxer who was a Black man, and he was the best amateur boxer in the world at the time. When Muhammad Ali was the champ, and we was watching a Spanish channel. And he was saying how he wasn't Black, and I remember asking my father, I was like, "Daddy, what's going on?" Because he looked like us, and that's when I learned that. So I think education, giving your kids books, teaching them to love themselves, showing the history, to forget what America's not going to teach you anything. We have to teach our kids, and that's the biggest thing, number one. And Crystal, what you said struck me too, because one of the challenges is telling the stories of making sure that we don't forget. My children never met my grandmother. I have to tell them about that. And Black people, we deserve to grow. Especially Black men, we deserve to grow old. We died too young. We died too young, man. So we got to teach them and share the stories of the history in our own family.
Well, thank you for that. I'll take that advice.
For sure.
Right. Bruce?
So I think I wanted to go back for a second to what Tracy said on the lift every voice and sing. There's another way of looking at it, I think, and it could provoke conversation, which is good. People, kids watch and say, "What song is that?" And then all of a sudden you're in a conversation explaining to them exactly what song that is. So I'll piggyback on Pedro and what Tracy said, as in you take ownership in making sure that your kids learn about us, our history, and our story, period.
Okay. I received that.
Me too. Trey?
All else?
I think it was Crystal.
No, well, I pretty much said what I
she
had
said
to
her
say.
thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You just have to educate, speak to your children, and teach them history. Just don't let it die.
Yes.
Trey? You good?
Yeah, I think I said all that I needed to say on that. And since you called me out, I'm gonna go ahead and give my last life lessons for today.
Yes.
Embrace who you are.
Yeah.
Because you are who you are. Love yourself. And it starts with education.
Yes. So on that note, guys, I definitely have a take home today of just thinking about everything that we talked about. It was powerful. It was definitely knowledgeable. So for my listeners and our listeners, we want to thank you for listening to us. And we want to definitely give Jay Wills a shout out. She's not feeling good today, so she's not here, but we want to give her a shout out.
Hi, Jay Wills. Feel better.
Feel better. And so I want to remind you guys, my listeners, our listeners, to please like and share. And remember to subscribe.
Yes.
To Life Lessons. The Life Lessons.
Yes. And we want to thank our guests too.
Our guests. Oh my God. Sorry, my guests. You guys. I'm sorry. Listen, you guys were so amazing today. I must admit, it was definitely a pleasure to have you guys here with us. And, to get a male perspective of some things that, of course we think we know. We do know. But you know, we sharing the stage with you guys, but we very thankful for you guys to come in and share with us and give us so much the knowledge. All right.
Thank
And
you.
that's Pedro and Bruce, guys. That's Pedro and Bruce.
Thank you,
So,
guys.
yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and all of our audience. Have a good night.
Have a good night.